marriage rates are probably stagnant or declining. One thing that we've figured out in our marriage is that life is what you make it. You get to design it, and you get to do what you want to do in your marriage.
Hey there, I'm Hailey.
I'm Richard, and this is the Vow Factor podcast.
We are so excited that you're here. We have been married for a little over a decade. We've got 4 small kids, and we've got a story just like you do. And we are so excited to share it with you guys in just the hopes that your marriage will increase in intimacy and love and tenderness, and that you guys will thrive. And actually, it was on our 10-year anniversary. We were in Hawaii when we got the idea.
Yeah.
And we came home from Hawaii. We were so excited. We actually started a podcast under a different name. We recorded a couple of episodes, and then
We did.
Your business got really busy, and it was like, okay, this is not the right time. We
That's
need
right.
to push pause on this. So now it's like a year and a half later. And
Probably, yeah, a year and a half later. We even recorded a couple episodes.
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I can't really say that life has like calmed down a ton since then.
No, it's even busier.
But I think I kind of reached a point of like, you know what? I really think that God has given us this thing that we have to do, that like we're going to carve out a couple hours a week and we're just going to do this thing. Because I really
Yeah.
think God has given us a passion about this.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's really, in some ways, given us a gift in this area that I think we need to share. So I'm
I
really
agree.
excited.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm
I
really
agree.
excited.
I'm
So-
excited.
I want to hear what you kind of are
Yeah.
hoping to achieve with this and what your vision is. For me, my biggest goal with this podcast is I really want to change the way that culture views and talks about marriage.
Yeah.
I think we hear so often the phrase that, marriage is hard, and, you just have to grit it through to the end. And I don't know. I just think that's such a sad way to look at marriage. Like, we even have people very close to us that I've heard this person refer to her husband as her cross to bear. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like what a sad way to
Yeah,
think about your
it
marriage.
is. It is.
And
And
I don't want that for people.
No, I agree. And so there's a couple sides to that, because one is it's obviously a sad way to view marriage if you're in a marriage right now. But number two is it has like the secondary consequence of people hear that and then they're like, man, like, do I really want to get married? And that could be your kids, that could be your friends, that could be just the people that you have influence over. But, today you look at, again, I don't know the stats, but we could pull up the stats. We should have like an iPad, but we could pull up the stats. And I would venture to say that marriage rates are probably stagnant or declining,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
And so we all know that younger people are not getting married as fast.
Well, and as a culture,
birth
like
rates.
you said, culturally, we don't talk about marriage in a way that would make people excited to do it. Like, oh my gosh, it's hard and you got to grit it out. Like, I'm not really going to sign up for that.
No, yeah, why would you sign up for that? It wouldn't make sense.
But it doesn't have to be that either.
No, it doesn't.
And it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree.
And then, back, in the early 2000s, there was that book. It's called The Sacred Marriage. And the whole premise of the book was that marriage isn't designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you holy.
Yes.
And while I agree with that premise, I think, especially in the church, they really ran with that. And it almost became this, if your marriage is making you happy, then you're doing something wrong.
100%.
And I don't think that's what God means.
Yeah.
I don't think that was his
Yeah, it's not like
design.
you need to yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like, in the church, it's also like, if you're rich, you're doing something wrong. You should be broke. You're only
I hear
holy
that
if you're
so
broke.
much. I hear that
and it's
so
like,
much.
I don't think that was God's design or desire for
No.
people.
No.
And I don't think it was his
I think
design
in
or desire
every
for
I think
marriage.
in every way, I think in every single fashion of the word, God wants you to live a very abundant life, a very happy life. I think he wants you
I
to live.
came that you can have life and have it
Yeah.
to the full. That's what he said.
And with that being said, I mean, look, the devil's real, and you're going to have challenges, and it's not always going to be fun, and it's not always, life circumstances are going to hit. But I believe that you and I, one thing that we've figured out in our marriage is that life is what you make it. And your marriage doesn't have to fit inside of a box. It doesn't have to look like everybody else's. It doesn't have to play by the same rules. The cool thing about marriage is that you get to design it, and you get to do what you want to do in your marriage. And I think a lot of marriages live in this box of like, this is what marriage looks like, and we follow these rules. But when you can just take a step outside of that and say, wait a minute, is this the
Why?
marriage? Is this the marriage that we want? Is this the life that we want? And it's no different than,
all
you know,
within the biblical parameters, of course.
all
always,
within the
but
biblical parameters.
there's
But
so
like,
much freedom in
there's so
there.
much freedom in marriage. And it's like, and you get to choose, and you're not stuck, and you're not in a box. And I remember I listened to a guy about a morning routine. He's like, dude, some guys get up and they do this meditation for 30 minutes and then they start working, and he's like, I love that. I think that's a great plan. He's like, me, I get up and I look at my Slack channel and I do work because I have a global business, and that's what makes me most satisfied is that's what I do. Is either one wrong? No, but one says, hey, I want to meditate because that's what I love to do. And the other guy says, I'm going to go straight to work. Both are right. And both can lead to a satisfying life. And I think that's how I look at marriage. It's like both are right, but do what you want to do in your marriage, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many different avenues and like kind of tips and tricks that we've learned and things that that we're going to kind of get to explore as we progress in this thing. But
100%.
so that's like my overall goal is I want to challenge how culture views marriage. What would you say your overall goal is if, we finished this thing and it was successful if this happened? What is that thing for you?
I think a success for me would be for all marriages, like whoever views this podcast, to wake up every day and just say, marriage is like, I love being married, like finding a lot of satisfaction and joy in just being married.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, if you think about marriage, who are you next to most? Like who influences you the most in your life? It's going to be the person you marry, right? You guys are going to spend probably the most time together. You guys are going to have the most experiences together, kids together, family. I mean, like that person is the one person in your life that you should wake up every day and feel grateful for and excited to see every day.
Yeah, it was so funny because we have 4 kids, and I was talking to my oldest, or our oldest, a couple of days ago, and he was like, he's always asking, Mom, who do you love more, me or Dad? And so I was like, son, you know what? I love your dad more, and I love you more than I could even explain to you, but I love your dad even more because one day if I do my job well, you're going to grow up and you're going to get married and you're going to have your own family and you're going to leave. And that's a beautiful, good thing. I want that for
That's
you.
right.
But your dad is still going to be here with me.
That's right. I'm going to be here. I'm still going to be here.
And I'm still going to wake up in bed next to him every morning for the rest of my life, even when you're gone, waking up next to your wife.
That's right.
And so, yeah, like you said, like that, the person you're married to, as valuable and as important as your kids are, that's the person.
That's the person.
That's the person.
And here's another stat for you. Again, we got to fact check it, but I recently read that we've been married 12 years?
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years, 4 kids. So we haven't reached the 19-year mark. But according to research, what I read is at 19 years of marriage, that's when most divorces occur. And so to your point, I think the reason why that is because you lose that connection to that person. So you're staying together, you have kids, you have the family, so you're in the thick of it, and then the kids leave, and then they're like, "Well, who am I married to?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who is this person? We don't have a
We don't have
relationship.
anything in common.
There's nothing in common. We don't do anything. Like you lose track of what you're doing in the marriage, and I think that you don't want to fall into that trap. We try not to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's a hard thing that like we're definitely going to have to do a whole episode on, but how to prioritize your marriage when you have these little people that really do demand so much of your time. And I think it's really more of a heart posture than an actual division of time. Because when you have all these little people, the time's not going to be divided 80-20.
It's
like they just take everything.
It's chaos.
They take everything they can get,
Yeah.
And that's good. They need you.
Yeah.
But your heart posture can still be that your marriage is a priority.
100%.
Well,
intention. Yeah. 100%. I agree.
We'll
Yeah.
dive more into that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But backing up a little bit. So that's kind of the goal of the podcast, what we're doing here. But we should probably take a minute and introduce ourselves a little bit.
Let's do it.
So like I said, we're Richard and Hailey Mujica. We've been married for 12 years. We have 4 young kids. Our oldest is 10. Our youngest is 4. And they're about regularly every 2 years.
2 boys, 2 girls.
2 good boys, 2 girls. They're so much fun and we love it so much. I'll say I'm a homeschooling mom. Our kids are home with me full time. My husband is a CEO of a very successful business that we've kind of
Does okay.
That we've grown and developed, or he's grown and developed, and I got to support him in that, and that was super fun. how else would you introduce yourself? What do they need to know about you?
Oh man, I mean, not too much. Yeah, I mean, we have we have the business. We do that. We do kids. I think our life. I think our life is pretty dang simple too. I think we try to simplify it.
Intentionally very simple.
Yeah, intentionally very simple. I mean, we have our family. We have God. We have the business, and it kind of like all flows.
We're both fitness
Yeah.
enthusiasts.
Yeah, fitness
for sure.
enthusiasts. Yeah, for
So
sure.
we love to work out together. It's one of
We
our
do.
favorite things.
Yeah, we
especially
do.
when he takes his shirt off in the gym.
Yeah, likewise.
That's my favorite.
Likewise.
I don't do that.
The Instagram, when I get you on the corner of the, doing the lat pull downs and
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. We're pretty simple.
Pretty simple. I think I could be a minimalist, to be honest with you.
You probably could.
I kind of have that desire, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. Okay. So, in the hopes of helping people get to know us a little bit, I have some somewhat rapid fire questions that I wanted to ask.
Bring it on.
And
I love rapid
you
fire
haven't seen
questions.
these yet, and I really haven't thought too deeply about them. So, first one is, what is your favorite hobby? You know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to pause for a second and back up real quick. Part of our story also. So, like we said, we've been married for 12 years. We have 4 kids. We also have been together since high school. So I saw Richard for the very first time when I was 15 years old, walking down the hallway of our high school. He was transfer student to this really small Christian school we both went to. And my eyeball saw him. And I always tell him,
Love
he
at
laughed
first
at me.
sight.
It was. I swear there was something in my soul that knew the second I saw him that that was that.
Pheromones.
It was.
Must
You
have
weren't
been
even close
pheromones.
enough for the pheromones yet. It was like something in my soul knew.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I had a crush on him for a year. And then finally that next year, I just decided to take the leap. And I asked him to Sadie Hawkins
With a fish, with a goldfish.
With a goldfish. And
It worked.
He agreed.
It
And
worked.
we were together our whole senior year of high school. Had a little hiccup there our freshman year of college. And
Meaning
then
she broke up with me.
I did. And then got back together when we were, I think I was still 18. And
we were 18. Yeah,
been
18.
together
Yeah. And
ever since.
Yeah, I've been together ever since.
Yeah.
What a love story, huh?
What a story. So much
crazy.
to it.
Yeah, that's
but
crazy.
I think that's an important piece of information. Anyways, okay. So what is your favorite hobby?
Well, I mean, I would say 2 of them are probably tied. So I love working out. Is that a hobby? I love working out. Been working out ever since like 16 and basically just never stopped. I find a lot of satisfaction in working out. And then number 2, I would say is learning. I love to just learn.
What's your favorite avenue for learning?
YouTube videos and books. I find myself actually watching mostly YouTube videos. I like podcasts. I would say actually nowadays it's usually YouTube videos and podcasts. Before it was audiobooks, and now I'd say it's those 2, YouTube and podcasts.
What's your go-to favorite podcast?
Oh, I love everything Alex Hormozy.
I knew you were
If
into
you've
that.
never seen Alex Hormozy, he is the man. Like all things business, I love his podcast. Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My favorite
I'm
hobbies.
going to ask you, right? Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Well, now it's on you. Yeah, now it's on you.
Okay. So I would say I have 3. One of them is working out, which is so funny. So I was always very fit growing up and all of that.
You were always fit.
And then we had kids and, things happened. And before I knew it, I had gained a ton of weight. And I was looking at myself and I was like, I don't even know this person.
Yeah, like 30 pounds.
Like 30 pounds after our 4th. It was like my first one, weight fell off. Second one, weight fell off. Third one, weight fell off. And then my 4th one, I was in my 30s. Weight just didn't fall off. And
Yeah.
I didn't alter my eating after breastfeeding like I should have. And it just I looked in the mirror one day and was like, what the heck happened? So I lost actually 40 pounds. And just really fell in love with working out again. And it was really transformative for my life. So I will never, ever stop working out. It's one of my favorite things. And the thing I love to do is read.
You love reading.
I'm a
Oh, you
big
love
reader.
reading.
I'm a big reader.
Probably like 10 books a month. I mean, it's crazy how many
Yeah,
books you pump out.
I read a lot. And then I love making bread. Those are
Oh, yeah.
my 3 favorite things.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. What are you the most passionate about?
What am I the most passionate about? Ooh, that's a good question. I would say, just the way life worked out, one of my biggest passions is sales. And I think the reason why sales is my passion, you guys don't know the story, but I was never in sales. But then at 27 years old, I was introduced to sales. But before sales, we were basically broke. It was just, I was a truck driver, XYZ. And then I was introduced to the world of sales. And I feel like that really changed the trajectory of our life, of our whole family's lives. And now I'm just passionate about it. I know the power of sales. I know the power of the profession. I want to get it out to more people. I want to help more people make more sales. I want to get people into better sales opportunity. I just love everything about sales. And I would say that's one of my greatest passions currently. Now it could shift, could change, but yeah. How about yourself?
Yeah. I would say my greatest passion is just pursuing intentionality in life, whether that's in marriage, in parenting, in homemaking, and like I always try to stop and ask myself, why am I doing this? Is this because this is what everyone does and it's what's expected, or is this because this is the best thing that needs to be done?
You taught me that.
I'm really, really, really passionate about that.
Because you always have a reason for why you do what you do.
I try to.
And before I met you, I didn't know anybody like that. I know everybody that I knew was I felt like just doing things because that's what people did. But then you introduced that concept to me, and that was actually a really big concept. That made a lot of sense. That made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, there was like a 17th century or 18th century educator. Her name was Charlotte Mason.
I've heard of her.
And she has, you've heard this quote a million times. But it's one of my favorite quotes ever. And she says, everyone has opinions that are either honestly acquired or merely picked up.
That's right.
And
that's right.
That is just such a profound statement to me. And I try to make sure that my opinions are honestly acquired.
Your opinions.
Yeah. All right. Next question I have for you. What is a piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
A piece of advice I'd give my younger self. I would say get into sales.
Do it earlier.
Yeah, just I mean, there's a lot of pieces of advice. I wish, as a young kid, like one thing that I've really come to learn is how important effort is in life. Like effort. If I just would have put more effort in, I was very talented, growing up in sports and this and that, but I never put very much effort into anything. And I always just coasted by and I always just got by. And I think if I could go back, I'd be like, man, if you just put in the most amount of effort and be satisfied with the effort that you put in. And I wish I could go back and tell my younger self that, because I think I would have gotten way further ahead in a lot of areas if I just would have put in more effort. And so I would say that. And then also too is sales.
And sales.
Yeah, sales. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, I think a piece of advice I would give my younger self, and this is something I'm still very much learning that I think you're really teaching me, that you really excel at, is that most things aren't a big deal.
Yeah.
And that if you step back and really analyze if something actually needs to be made a big deal about, the answer is almost always no. And that's not necessarily my intuition with most things. It's like everything has to be handled, and it's like, well, not really. Most things actually don't.
Yes.
And so that's the advice I'd give my younger self, that I feel like
that.
I'm still very much learning.
90, and what's the quote? I think it's from John Maxwell. He's like, don't sweat the small stuff, and 99% of it is small stuff.
Yeah.
And that makes life a lot less complicated when you live, I feel like, when you live like
that. And it doesn't come naturally to me for some reason, but you're helping me with that.
Yeah.
And kids, I think, just have a way of helping you with that.
Yeah, yeah. Or they don't help with that, because, you can kind of, they
get lost in the weeds.
Get lost in the weeds with that too, but.
Okay. What is a lesson that you've learned that's changed your perspective on something?
Oh my gosh, there's too many. The biggest thing that shifted a lot of who I was understanding identity. We've talked about this. And I would say this one concept really was powerful for me. And it's the concept of all behavior change doesn't last. There's so many people that want to work out more, or they want to build a business, or they want to go out and, volunteer. you try to change your behaviors because you figure like, well, hey, if I want to be more fit, I'm going to start working out, right? So naturally you try to start working out. But the problem is behavior change doesn't last unless your identity matches the behavior. So for example, the concept was that the actions you take stem from who you are, right? So I'll give you a practical example. I identify as a fit person. I see myself as a fit person. My identity is I am a fit person. Like it's an I am statement. I am fit. And because I have that I am over my life, I naturally do the things to stay fit, right? I watch my weight. I watch what I eat. I go to the gym. But people see the behaviors, but what they don't see is the identity that I've claimed over my life, right? And so it's no different for anything that you want to do, whether it's like, for example, you're a great mom, but you have claimed that identity in your life. Like, I am a great mother. I am a great wife, right? And because you've taken that identity, you naturally do the things that will reinforce who you believe you are. Tony Robbins had one of the most powerful quotes. He said, "The most powerful force on earth is for a human to stay consistent with who he believes he is."
Yeah.
And that one concept, if that was the question, was that the question?
Yeah, something that's changed your perspective.
Yeah, that changed my whole perspective on life. Because now even when I meet people and I see destructive behaviors, I'm like, oh, okay, well, we can fix the behaviors if all we did was just change their identity, fix their identity. And that's like, yeah, revolutionary in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mine, it's so funny that you mentioned Tony Robbins because mine also has to do with Tony Robbins. I think this is a
He's
Tony
the man.
Robbins quote where he said something about anger is actually just either hurt or an unmet expectation. It like disguises itself as anger. That's Tony Robbins, right?
As anger is either hurt or an unmet expectation.
Yes.
I don't know if it
I'm
is.
almost
It probably
positive.
is. I mean, that sounds like Tony Robbins.
I'm almost positive it's him. But that was really revolutionary. Like even in myself, when I get upset, I can analyze myself and say, okay, I was hurt because of this thing, or I expected this thing and it didn't happen. And it always roots down to one of those two things. And anger is not. So his whole thing is like anger is not a real emotion. Like anger is a mask of one of these two things.
So anger is okay. So it's either an unmet expectation or what?
Or hurt.
Or hurt. But can't you just boil it down to an unmet expectation? Because isn't just an unmet expectation the result of hurt?
You'd have to ask Tony.
I feel like that would be. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I know I can boil it down. And so then when I'm addressing somebody else and I'm experiencing their anger, I try to really analyze like, okay, which camp is this one in? And how can I address that thing instead of going head on to the anger, which is just looking for a train crash, right? How can I go around that and try to figure out this thing that they're actually experiencing?
That's
and especially as a parent, that really has helped
That's
me
very
a
helpful.
lot.
Let me say this one too about Tony Robbins.
Okay,
He said another quote
He's a
that
good
just like freaking, I love this one. He said that every response that you get from somebody is either a loving response
Or a cry for help.
or a cry for help. And I love that because anytime that somebody is either heated with me or angry at me or saying stuff that is hurtful at me, I realize that all they're doing is they're just crying for help, right? So when I look at it from that perspective, I don't get frustrated. I don't get mad back because I'm like, no, what this person needs is they need some love right now. Like they have a hurt. There's something going on that they're crying out for help. They don't know how to articulate it. So they're angry, they're frustrated, they're mad, they're whatever. But then I need to come in and be that voice to say, hey, look, you're obviously hurting right now. Let's figure out how we can kind of overcome that hurt, So I think that just also simplifies life.
Yeah.
It's a loving response or a cry for help.
And then you can also analyze that in yourself. When you're
100%.
when you're upset with someone, it's like, wait a second. What am I actually needing help with? Because
Yes. Yes, exactly. It works both ways.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Last question is a two-parter. So what is something you value the most about our relationship? That's part one.
What do I value most about our relationship? Well, one thing that I really value is that I believe that you have always made me better. Right? You've always you've never being around you doesn't make me any percent worse. You know what I'm saying? It only makes me better. And so ever since we got married and ever since I've met you, you've always had a higher standard for me. And you've always wanted me to live to a higher standard. And you've always pushed me to a higher standard. So that's, I mean, one thing that I really have valued in our relationship is that the more I'm around you, the better I become because you make me better. Yeah.
Okay. I say what I value the most and that I've really learned not to take for granted is that I'm so wildly and deeply in love with you. And like, I so enjoy you so much. And I kind of look around and I do see marriages that have that, but I see a lot of marriages that don't. And so I try to really not take that for granted and appreciate that. And the other thing is just that you're so unbelievably kind to me and to our children. And, you know, I'm not the world's best driver. And so I've been known to like get in a little
Hit
fender
park
bender
cars.
in the parking lot.
Yeah, not fender,
occasionally.
but hit park cars.
It's happened. But I never like feel this fear to tell you because I'm like, okay, this was not good, but he's not going to be mean, you know, like, so, and I'm very, very thankful for that. And
Yeah.
I'm thankful our kids have that.
Well, you hit one more parked car.
I might just tip you over.
You might see somebody different.
I don't think so. Okay. And what is your biggest challenge in our relationship? This is part B.
Biggest challenge in our relationship. The biggest challenge in our relationship. Ooh, maybe you have to answer first while I think about it.
I know mine.
Yeah. All right. Well, you do yours first. And then
Okay.
I'll think about mine.
And this is like kind of humorous, but it's also very, very true. And that Richard is the messiest person I've ever met. Like, and it's not on purpose. It's just like you really were not trained to clean up after yourself.
to be like
But oh my gosh.
cleanly.
Oh my gosh. But like literally to the point when we first got married, and I think you'll still deny this. We were living in a home in La Puente, California, which is like not the greatest area. And we were living in this house. And I really, for our first year of marriage, I really truly thought there was like a homeless guy that used to like kind of walk around our block and like whistle at our dogs and stuff. I 100% believed that this homeless guy was breaking into our house and eating our food because, you know, the tortillas, like, you know, they have a little Ziploc, but they would be like torn open from the middle.
Oh,
And
I
I'm like,
believe it too.
Stop it.
I
Stop
believe it too.
I'm like, okay, who does that? Or we would have like a jar of peanut butter and then an unopened jar. And this one's like, he would like the unopened jar would be opened and used while the other one was still good. And I'm like, gosh, this homeless guy. And it literally, it wasn't until like a year or two ago where I kind of looked in the pantry and realized that's my husband. Like my husband does that.
He's the homeless guy.
He's the homeless guy that like, I got married and thought like, nobody does that. No sane person eats like that. It has to be the homeless guy. And I had this realization just a couple of years ago, like, oh my gosh, it was never the homeless guy. It was Richard. And you're just
That's
very
interesting. You don't think the homeless guy was it? He might have
Babe,
come in a couple times.
I know you.
He
Or
was-
like there would be times where like the gallon of milk would be on top of the refrigerator instead of in the refrigerator. And I'm
think that was
thinking like
me, huh?
I'm 100. Now that I've been married to you long enough,
You're
to,
like
I'm
100% that was Rich.
yes, because now
There's
we
no
live in
doubt
a
about it.
gated community with no homeless people,
Yeah.
and it
It
still happens.
it still occurs. Yeah. Well, there's homeless people, you know.
There are not. There are not. And so I am certain it was you the
might
whole
be
time.
Right. You might be right.
Okay, so that's, but all humor aside, obviously as a stay-at-home wife and mom, where my domain is our home, it can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes when I feel like I put so much work
Yeah.
and so much time into the environment of our home, and it just kind of gets
Yeah.
messy.
Yeah.
It can be a challenge.
Well, hey, you know.
But if that's my greatest complaint, I'm okay.
Yeah, you're
So,
good. I mean, come on. That's
What is your greatest challenge?
my greatest challenge. I mean, so I've been thinking about it. I think early on, my biggest challenge was getting better. You know, like early on in our marriage, it was just like, you know, you had higher expectations, bigger hopes for me, and I think early on that was the biggest challenge, is like trying to just level up.
When you maybe
know.
you were resistant to leveling up. You
Yeah.
just wanted to.
I was like,
Chill.
chill, play video games, the whole thing, right? But now I would say, you know, one of the biggest challenges I mean, I don't know if it's with you. Again, I don't think there's that many challenges with you, but I think one challenge that we have is just like, a lot of times like I'll be on my phone or something, or like just not like fully there, fully present, fully engaged.
Hmm.
And sometimes you've taken that certain ways, and then that kind of brings frustration back to me or whatnot. I would say that's a challenge. I don't know if that's necessarily on you though. I'm trying to figure out what a challenge on you would be, but
Well, I'm sure there's times I could address that, even though it needs to be addressed maybe in a more
yeah,
gentle way.
yeah. I don't think it's like I don't think it's crazy, but I would say that's a challenge, you know, um, that we have, you know. But besides that, again, I wouldn't say you're very challenging, but you are feisty
Hmm.
and you are tiny, but you pack a punch. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna call me out. Like you're gonna call me out when you see things that are not being done that you feel like or should be getting done. You're gonna say it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
And that's challenging.
yeah. I'm a really big believer though in like not letting things fester. I'm not like a sweep things under the rug
No,
person.
you're not. No, you're not.
Because I feel like they just get bigger. So I'd rather just
Yeah.
address this now
100%.
and like figure it out.
Yeah. And I think to a large degree, I think men need that, because in a lot of ways, like men can, I believe they can be kind of dialed in one area, but not so much in another area.
Mhm.
And I think at the core of us, like a lot of times we can let that kid nature still kind of arrive in us because we are kind of just like bigger kids at the end of the day. And I think having a wife that can really call you out when you need to be called out, when things need to get buttoned up, when things need I think a man needs that, because it kind of readjusts them. It like kind of snaps them back to get them back to where they need to go.
Mhm.
And it's like, and I think that's what a wife's there. A wife is a partner, and a wife tends to have these abilities that a man does not have. They can see things men cannot see,
They
right?
have an intuition.
They have an
men just don't
intuition
have.
that men don't have. And they just can feel it. They can see it. They understand it. And a man can't see it sometimes.
Mhm.
And so I think that's where the power of a wife comes in that will be willing to do that.
Mhm.
And obviously the man needs to like listen too, but like that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whole other thing.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
So yeah. You have any other brain busters?
That was all my questions. So I went through ChatGPT and like
Oh, you gotta use ChatGPT.
I
It's the
drive
best.
like a list of like 100 different topics to cover over the next 100 weeks or so.
That's a lot.
And so I'm really, really excited. I think we have some really good stuff
Really
to
good
dive
ones.
into.
Yeah, really good one.
I think it's going to be really fun.
It will be fun.
Excited. So
Yeah.
Thank
Is
you
that
for
the
doing
is that
this
the
with
end
me.
of, is that the end of this
that's the end
episode?
of the first episode. Is there anything else you wanted to
Um,
convey?
Nope. No, I don't think so. But what would be cool? Like, I think we're gonna post this. We're gonna post it on like YouTube. We'll have it on different podcasting. So it'll probably be on Spotify. It'll be on Apple Podcasts. But what would be interesting as we kind of start uploading these first episodes is getting comments on like what people would even like. What would most be intriguing to them?
Yeah, for sure.
What areas of marriage would be interesting if we talked about it? Just comments would be helpful. So that way we can kind of steer our conversation in a way that would what most people would find valuable.
Yeah. And then
So-
just, the final note that I think is important to say is that, we're very much in the thick of marriage, 4 young kids, building a business.
Oh, 100%.
We don't have all the answers. We don't have everything figured out. We don't do everything perfect by
Yeah.
any stretch. This is not just like us teaching people, it's like,
Yeah.
this is just us having a conversation about something that we really love, that we can offer
Yeah.
value to, that, it's a kind of a time to kind of force us to sit down
Yeah.
and talk about these things, which is good. And if people learn something great,
100%.
hopefully we'll learn a lot too. And
Yeah, I think it's like a community thing.
Huh.
It's like, in fact, we should probably even should start a community. But like, I do believe in that. Like, I think we will actually learn a lot more
I hope so.
than everybody else because if I see it right, hopefully people kind of chime in, give their feedback, what's worked for them, what they're doing. And I think that's the benefit of this. It's like we can have a discussion, but there's so many other discussions to be had
Right.
amongst everybody else that I think it'll help everybody. So
Yeah. So we're really not
Yeah.
coming from a place of expertise, just more so a place of passion. And
100%.
that's where our hearts
Yeah.
are at.
Right.
Yes. Thank you.
Cool. Let's do it.
Love you.
Love you.